Today is Sunday, February 10th, 2019, and this is Celtics Beat here on CLNS Media, the leading online provider of audio, video coverage of your Boston Celtics. Evan Valenti once again filling in for Adam Kaufman. Episode 301 featuring Stadiums and CLNS's very own Jeff Goodman is brought to you in part by betonline.ag. Get a 50% bonus on your deposit by going to clnsmedia.com/win or entering the promo code CLNS50. Today's show is also brought to you by Mint Mobile. Get your wireless plan and new SIM card shipped to you for free for just $15 by going to mintmobile.com/podcast. And today's show is finally brought to you by Robinhood. Robinhood is giving you a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint when you sign up at celtics.robinhood.com. Welcome inside another edition of Celtics Beat here on CLNS Media. Evan Valenti again pinch hitting for Adam Kaufman. He'll be back next week. Just a couple other things he's got to clear up, but he'll be back next week, I promise. Just filling in once again. But before I get to our guest here today, just again, a quick reminder, subscribe to this show on iTunes and Stitcher. Follow us along at clnsmedia.com and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, CLNS Media on YouTube. There's like 20,000 of you that subscribe to us. It's absolutely insane. I love the fact that we have so many people. Keep telling everybody. We keep, putting out serious content, whether it's the Garden Report or B-Ball Break. There are all these great podcasts that we have. We're actually joined by another guy that's actually on a podcast network, and I produce his podcast. It's actually interesting for me because the shoe is on the other foot for once. I'm interviewing my man Jeff Goodman, who hosts Good and Plenty on the CLNS Media Network. Jeff, how's it been, life as a podcaster?
Well, you've kind of taught me the ropes. So,
yeah, man.
Without you, I'd be screwed. I feel pretty good that I'm surviving. I've made it since I think we started it right before the NBA draft, and so I've made it. I don't know, 7-8 months, and haven't been fired yet. So
yeah, we were up late that night though. The NBA draft night. When did we start that pod? We were up super late.
Yeah, it was after the pod. After the draft kind of ended. Probably started at midnight. And I remember we did that one. Remember, I just torn my knee.
Yeah.
So I remember I was on crutches, sitting on the couch, couldn't move, trying to figure out how to position the mic so I could do it and still do the pod okay. It was a mess.
Dude, I give you so much credit for that. I've done shows like Ailing before, but the inability to basically move has been something I haven't had to do that. I did a couple of shows in college, and I had bronchitis. And I was just like grossly coughing into the microphone, trying to do lacrosse post-game shows. And I'm like, guys, folks, just before we even get going here, I am very sick, but there's literally nobody on campus right now, and I got to be the guy that does this show. So when you call in and want to roast me, just please take it easy on me, okay? We've had so much fun with that, and I just to tell the listeners out there, we've had so much fun with this. My favorite one that you've done, by far, and I told you this then, and I still, to this day, still think your pod with Gilbert Arenas was the most entertaining hour and 20 minutes, like maybe of my life. It was so great. And getting that interview set up in the first place was like moving mountains because he can't receive phone calls, We had to call his trainer's phone.
You're like, he won't answer. And I'm texting him at the time. I'm like, Gilbert, pick up the phone. And finally, I don't know if he texted back. He's like, I don't receive phone calls. And I'm like, you dumbass. Like, didn't you think of telling me that in the first place, that you don't receive phone calls? So how are we going to figger this thing out? So you're right.
I tried to make it so he called us, and then I patched you in, and we couldn't even do that. It was a nightmare getting that thing set up. And I was freaking out because I was like, I want Gilbert. Gilbert Arenas is one of the few guys that has no filter. And getting him on the pod would be just amazing.
And we just shot the shit. That's the thing I think I've learned with podcasting is you have to have that balance, right? Of shooting the shit, getting a guy to loosen up, and then on the flip side, then being able to inform and ask some serious questions, maybe some tough ones, and balance it. I think that's the way you got to go. I just can't listen to a straight podcast. I can't listen to one that's 100% serious. Maybe it's because I'm immature. I don't know. but I need both. I need to be entertained and I need to be informed. And you can alternate with me, but I need a little bit of both. I need to laugh and learn.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's got to be educational, but it's also got to be entertaining. You know what I mean? If you find that delicate balance somewhere, then that's where you're making the magic there. Now you know, admittedly, you know, you dabble in, I think, 3 levels of basketball, right? You're plugged into the AAU circuit, right? You get in on these guys at the ground floor. You know, college, you're all over the place. You're traveling everywhere for college stuff. And then every once in a while, you sprinkle in a little NBA, you know, every once in a while when it's convenient. Maybe, do I have that right?
No, I mean, listen, like, I'll work my travel schedule around good Celtics home games. So, like, I made sure I was here for Golden State. I made sure I was here for the Lakers. You know, certain games I will make sure I'm here for. So I've probably been to a half dozen Celtics games this year, which is actually down. Last year I was probably at this time of year maybe 10. So I'll try to get, and then I'll do, once college hoop ends, once the Final Four ends, I'll go full bore into NBA and NBA playoffs. And, you know, the advantage I have is, honestly, I can walk in a locker room and get information other guys can't from players because I've known them since they were 15 years old. So I can just go up to a guy, you know, like KD when they were in town, and just talk to him for 10 or 15 minutes in the locker room when other people may not feel as comfortable to be able to do that. And I, you know, like yesterday at shoot around, I just went up and started talking to LeBron about his son, who I happened to see play an AAU ball in Vegas in July, and also just talking to him about Zion for like 10 minutes. And again, you kind of got to know what to hit him with, because if you hit them with something hard right out of the gates, they're going to be like, yeah, I don't want to deal with this stuff. Like, once you get them going about a topic that maybe other people aren't asking them about, that they can be loose about, they're just so much more at ease. And then if you want to hit them on a real topic, they'll give you a better answer.
Yeah, and you were there. So we're full disclosure, recording this on a Friday. It's coming out Sunday. You were at Celtics Lakers last night, and I gotta tell you, is it any more like perfectly written that out of all people on the Lakers bench, Rajon Rondo, former Boston Celtic, is the guy that kills Boston. When you were watching the game last night, you take away from a couple of things, at least in the Boston end. I'm looking at that game. I'm looking at, you know, rebounding-wise, they out-rebounded LA, but didn't feel like it. Effort-wise, defensively, I think they came in and out of it. And there were a couple of bounce balls that go differently, and all of a sudden it's a different game. But I think I was surprised with how resilient the Lakers were. But on the other end, like, Boston was in a real funk last night. What did you see last night?
Well, I saw a Boston team that didn't guard, number one. I mean, they didn't guard, and especially in that third quarter, giving up 42 points. Now, the Lakers made shots. They're typically not a good perimeter shooting team. But when you get so many uncontested looks, you're going to make some. And, you know, I thought this Lakers team was playing with kind of a free mind. A lot of those young kids who had thought they were going to be traded, or, you know, certainly thought there was a chance they could be traded. You know, Kyle Kuzma was playing much better. You know, he looked healthier. You know, and LeBron, listen, when you lose by 40 to Indiana, it's a joke. I mean, you know, you get embarrassed. Usually teams come back from that. Professional players usually come back from that. But, you know, Celtics are still not the team we thought they were going to be. They're not. I mean, whether it's Gordon Hayward's injury, whether it's that they're just not meshing together, whether it's that, you know, Kyrie didn't play great, obviously, against the Lakers. I still think Kyrie's got to be more point guard than scoring guard with this team. With this team right now. Now, he can, in the playoffs, he wants to, he can turn it back on. But I feel like his number one responsibility for this team right now is you've got a lot of mouths to feed. Feed them. Like, work on that and pick your spots offensively. And the more you feed them and the better they are, the easier it's going to be for you, that you're not going to have to deal with, you know, with guys trapping, guys doubling, and getting as much attention. Because if Gordon Hayward gets back closer to what Gordon Hayward was, they're going to have to pay attention to him. Right now, a lot of times they just leave him wide open.
Right. Gordon's been a tough one. Maybe we'll touch on him in a little bit. But, like, in that Kyrie point, you know, Kyrie has done a good job. I think the best job he's ever done in his career at being more of a facilitator and using his speed, his dribble to kind of probe into the middle of the defense and like kick out of that and find open shooters. I think he's done a good job at that. But the problem is for Boston has been consistency. I mean, they've had a couple different starting lineups where they have different guys in there. They've inserted Marcus Smart into that, the shooting guard or just other guard role. They put Marcus Morris in there. They've had a more consistent output with that unit. And I think there's been some cohesion there. Just the bench has been such a mess sometimes. I mean, you get a good night from Terry Rozier Thursday night, a surprisingly good one where he shot really well. It feels like forever last time Rozier had a really complete game on both ends. Jaylen Brown gave you a great game. Hayward wasn't aggressive. Tice gave you an insane game off the bench. He was like, 9 for 11 on Thursday night against the Lakers? It was crazy. But their consistency is what's really plagued this team all year long, Jeff. And you talk about the defense. Defensively, back in not the old days, but in the earlier days of Brad Stevens, they would be inconsistent offensively, but the effort would be there, right? You'd see this team, jump all over the place to try and get loose balls, and even though they'd be undersized, they'd try to fight for every rebound. They'd still get killed in that area. But at least the effort level defensively would be the one thing they hang their hat on. Thursday night, I was just a little mortified over how easy LeBron could basically pick his mismatch and find open guys all over the place. It was a little, foreign to guys who've been watching the Celtics for a couple of years now. And the one big concern I have for this team is, like, do we still have defined roles amongst everybody still? I mean, at what point, Jeff, do we take, Hayward, who is, again, they're trying to work him back, and I know it's going to be a process, but at what point do we, like, for example, take some of his minutes and give him to Jaylen Brown, or take some of Rozier's minutes and give more to Smart and more to Kyrie? Like, at what point do we do that?
Well, I think Brad Stevens is trying to handle this one sensitively as much as he can, obviously because of his relationship with Gordon, and the hope that if you take away minutes from Gordon, how is he going to get better? And understanding that the only chance they have to make a deep, deep run this year and challenge Golden State, which is really what you want to do, right? You want to get to the Eastern Conference final, win the Eastern Conference, and then make it a series against Golden State. Maybe if an injury happened, you'd really make it a series. And the only way to do that is to get Gordon closer to what he was. And Brad doesn't know if that's going to happen. Gordon doesn't know if that's going to happen. None of us know how far he will come. But the most difficult part for Gordon right now is he's not getting consistent reps as far as scoring the ball. In Utah, it was his team. So he was taking 15, 20 shots a night. Here, there's some nights where he takes 5, 6, 7 shots. How do you get into a groove? How do you get your confidence back? You're not getting into a rhythm. So I don't think I take away his minutes. I don't because of that, because the bottom line is without Gordon Hayward, maybe you can win the East. Maybe. And my gut feeling is you probably don't win the East unless Gordon gets closer to what he was. And, maybe now honestly, he looks like he's maybe 70%. And if he can get closer to, can he get to 80, 85, and then you got a guy who's, at least a threat on both ends. Because right now, he's not a threat very often. He's just not, and it sucks to say it because there's no bigger fan of Gordon Hayward as a guy than me. But yeah, right now, it's tough to play him. But on the flip side, it's almost like you have to play him. Like you said, is there a point this season when you say, all right, he's just not there? Yeah, it's probably playoffs. Probably playoffs where Brad Stevens says, all right, you know what? He hasn't come far enough. I'll feel it out, and maybe some games he has it, and some games he doesn't, and you feel it out. And if he doesn't have it, that's when you give his minutes to Jaylen Brown.
Quick break to tell you today's show is brought to you by BetOnline.ag. Lots of good NBA action coming up this week to throw some money on. Okay, got a lot of good ones this week. Philly hosting the Celtics Tuesday night, all right? Trailblazers, Thunder in Oklahoma City. That's on Monday night. A couple of those that you want to look out for, make some money on. Get online. Go to betonline.ag today to get on the action. BetOnline.ag is CLNS Media's preferred online sportsbook. Go to clnsmedia.com/win to get a 50% bonus when you sign up, or just use the promo code CLNS 50. Do not be left on the sidelines, okay? All this excitement's going on the court, all right? You have that, plus you have the virtual casino on betline.ag to make some money on there, too. You have new faces on new teams around the NBA, Toronto, Milwaukee making some big trades in the Eastern Conference. Plus, don't forget, I'm sure you can make some bets on All-Star Weekend as well. I mean, I'm not just the All-Star Game itself, but maybe the dunk contest, 3-point contest, who's going to win those. Get online to betonline.ag today. Make some money. Whatever you do, use betonline.ag. Use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% bonus on your first deposit, or just go to clnsmedia.com/win. Yeah, it's just kind of a balancing act for Stevens. And, you know, again, we're all rooting for Gordon. Don't get me wrong. It's just at some point, like, the results have to matter. And I think Jaylen Brown's emergence, or reemergence, the past 2 months, where he went from shooting terribly to now like a 40% from 3-point range shooter the past 2 months, and he's been more aggressive into the free throw line and looks more engaged on both ends of the floor. That's like, once he starts finding his rhythm, like, and he's a young guy, he's 21, 22. He needs reps, and if you're trying to trade him for Anthony Davis as the centerpiece, he's got to look good. And at some point, if I don't know if it's Danny or if it's Brad or if it's somebody that has to go, like, look, like, Gordon, it's gonna be a long process. It's okay, like, don't get frustrated. We're gonna need you. And like, the one way I think you can get Gordon to stay involved is that guy's vision is still at an all-time and a very, very high level. Okay, he still can move the ball and facilitate a little bit. I mean, like, driving into the middle of the lane and trying to figure out from there, maybe not so much, but he's a ball mover. He can initiate the offense at least, and at least get him involved in that aspect. Maybe not taking a bunch of shots, but at some point.
But how much is there of that, Evan, when you've got Kyrie dominating the ball? That's the problem too. And in Utah, you saw more of it because he had the ball in his hand so much more. Now, how often does he get the ball? That's part of the problem with this team right now. Everybody's trying to figure out that aspect of it when Kyrie's on the floor. Last year, Jason Tatum gets the ball. He can dance with it a little bit more. Now he gets it. I think he's thinking also, I may not get it back again. So he's taking some shots he might not have taken. Jaylen Brown, all the guys have done a good job as far as not publicly like complaining or anything like that. But again, like, I've talked to Terry Rozier after games numerous times this year, and it's an adjustment for him. He could say he was prepared for this all he wants. There's a difference between saying it and then living it. And he knew it changed for him so quickly last year, like, not this, a little bit later in the year. But remember, like, all of a sudden, Kyrie gets hurt, and it was Terry Rozier's show, and everybody's talking about Rozier in the playoffs, and he's on, they bring him into the studio in Bristol. He's on every show, and now he goes to kind of a forgotten man, and that's hard to deal with.
Yeah, I get that. In terms of Kyrie, there's been a lot of news around Kyrie Irving and what he may or might not do next summer. And it's been a lot of just, a lot of people asking him the same question over and over again, and I can see why he'd be frustrated by that at this point. It seems like it's bothering Kevin Durant, too. It's not like it's exclusively a Kyrie Irving thing. And everybody you talk to that's involved, in covering the NBA at any level says, Kyrie's a weird guy. He's a different guy. So nobody has any idea or any inkling of where he might go. But, I mean, Danny came out Friday and was like, look, this is more like an engagement, right? Kyrie came out and said, this is what I want to do, before the season, in front of all the season ticket holders. He said, yeah, I want to, if you guys will have me, I want to sign here next year to try and get out of the way, right? And that wasn't a story for a while. But then all of a sudden it was a story again, right? And then it has all these reporters in New York City after the Knicks trade Porzingis to basically open up cap space to signal that the Knicks are trying to be free agent players next offseason or this upcoming offseason. And all of a sudden he has to face those questions again, and he's a little bit more crass about it. Like, as a journalist at some point, like, I understand if you have to get that money quote, right? But what I think is happening here with Kyrie especially, and I'm not sure if Durant, I don't follow the Warriors that closely, but I know with Kyrie, it's like, okay, I've already answered this question. I thought I gave you guys what you wanted, but now you're asking this again. The whole ask me on July 1st thing, people I think took out of context and are trying to use it in a different way to like make Kyrie look like a bad guy or something like that. I feel like there's a lot of, especially the past 2 weeks, Jeff, a lot of media manipulation a little bit, and a lot of that has to do with certain guys in certain parts of the media landscape, whether at ESPN or whatever. I think Kyrie's just sick and tired of having to answer this question. And meanwhile, he's trying to lead a team like you talked about. Rozier having a tough time adjusting to his role. Jaylen Brown adjusting to his role, right? How these guys have taken less to try and become more of this team. They're having a hard time doing it. Kyrie's got to deal with all that as the leader of the locker room. He's a guy that has to go in there and try and tell these guys, here's what happens. Here's what we need to do. Here's what we need to focus on. Meanwhile, he has to put out all these other fires. I can see why Kyrie is frustrated. But then again, people are always going to be asking him this stuff no matter where he goes, whether he is next year or whatever. He's going to just deal with all this baggage. And I thought last night maybe it showed a little bit when the Lakers are taking on the Celtics. What's your gut feeling on Kyrie Irving, what he might be thinking in terms of this offseason?
Well, first of all, they all get frustrated with the media now, okay, because news isn't news like it used to be. Now anything they say can be made into news. Like, when I've been I worked for the ESPN for the last 5 years, and even from when I started to when I left, I didn't even understand what qualified as news at the end, because it could be anything. It could be like something completely mundane that, like, even again, I was talking about Zion to LeBron for 10 minutes, and I didn't have a tape recorder out because I was just kind of shooting the shit with him about him for the most part while everybody else was waiting. He had already done his full kind of session with the media, and he was just sitting down. And if I wanted to, and I sent out one tweet about it, just overall. I didn't quote him. I just sent out, like, LeBron was 220, said he was 220 at the same stage that Zion is at right now, his first year out of high school, and Zion's 285 and whatnot. So anything you want to turn into news these days, you can, and largely because of social media. And that's the difference with these guys, whether it's Kyrie, whether it's KD, whether it's LeBron, saying he was asked a question yesterday at shoot around that people turned into something it wasn't, that he was like okay with where he's at right now and like doesn't need to. I didn't even remember the whole context because it didn't really make a lot of sense to me and I didn't care about it. But he said he was basically taken out of context in terms of a question that was asked and the answer he gave. So I think a lot of players aren't as trusting of the media these days, which I get because there's a lot more media people now that can just parachute in and throw what they want out there and they just want to get attention. I also think the other part of that is a lot of players feel like they can manipulate so many members of the media that when a media person then kind of writes the truth, they're more thin-skinned. So with Kyrie specifically, he is, as you said, a different dude. He is. I don't have a great feel. Think about this. His agent only represents 3 players in the NBA. So you're not getting a lot. Like Rich Paul reps a ton of players, so there's more information out there. He can manipulate he's trying to get Anthony Davis with LeBron and working, maybe trying to get some information about Kyrie. And you start to think, well, LeBron and Kyrie didn't see eye to eye in Cleveland. How much does that affect maybe Rich Paul trying to, drop some info about Kyrie to try to screw this thing up? So, Kyrie, again, only had, his agent's got 3 people, Jason Tatum, Jonathan Isaac, and Kyrie. So I don't see a ton of that going on. I just don't know with Kyrie. I don't think any of us know. I mean, Danny said what he said, but I'm not sure he's 100% confident either. I think they're going to make a push for Anthony Davis, and I think they feel like if they can, and they don't have to give up Tatum, and you can give up just about anything else other than Kyrie and Tatum. Obviously, you're not going to be able to move Hayward at his salary right now the way he's playing. So if you trade everything else, whoever it is, you can take Horford, you can take Smart, you can take Jaylen Brown, you can take all the picks, and you go in, and Kyrie knows he's got himself, Anthony Davis, Tatum, and Hayward, and they kind of figure it out around that. How do you leave that? I think that's what the Celtics are thinking, at least. How do you leave that situation to maybe go to New York when you've got it set up that you can maybe contend, certainly top 4 guys with Golden State?
Yeah, I believe that too. I think you just have, if you have, Kyrie has the experience of the playoffs. He's, a guy that's a really tough matchup one-on-one. Davis is a freak of nature. Tatum is a budding young star. I don't know. if the C's can end up landing Davis without putting Tatum in the deal. Now, Danny's going to go to the table and say, look, I don't have any confirmation from Anthony Davis that he's going to sign here long term. I can't put Tatum on the table. I don't know if he'll get away with that, but I know that's what he's going to try. Tatum is obviously a guy that you want to keep because he's unbelievable. How much has he grown since you've seen him in high schools? I know out of all the people that I know, the guy that was earliest on the Jason Tatum train was Jeff Goodman, no question about it. I mean, your like banner picture in your Twitter profile is you interviewing Jason Tatum when he's at Duke, I think.
I know, and listen, I've seen him since the sophomore year of high school, and I've been raving about him ever since. So I'm like the president of the Jason Tatum fan club, if there is one. In fact, we just made a bet last night. He says that Kansas star Dedrick Lawson is going to be a lottery pick. So I bet him dinner that would not be the case. And then to find out that he's got a background with Dedrick Lawson. So I went up to him. I found that out. We bet on it about 2 weeks ago. I found that out in the interim. I went up to him. I said, man, you let your heart get in the way of a bet. I mean, that's just not smart betting.
We all do it, though. We all do it.
We do. And you know what? Dinner for him, he's making a lot more money than I am, so he'll be just fine. I've seen major growth. He couldn't really shoot the three in high school. So that's a major area that he's really grown is a perimeter shot. Like as a rookie, nobody in hell thought he was going to shoot as well as he did from three. Now, again, if you remember the first half of last year, they just stuck him in the corner. That was his role till like this time last year. He was just stuck in the corner for the most part. And early on, they were uncontested threes because the book on him was that he wasn't really much of a perimeter threat from three. He made them, and then his role completely changed when Kyrie went down. And people could see what he could do, jab step, fade away, just the length, the way he's just a professional scorer. I've always said that. He is a professional scorer. He's a better defender than I gave him credit for. Still not a great defender, but can be a really good defender if he wants to be. And the area I still feel like Jason Tatum, and again, I think it's hard with Kyrie. I think he's a much better facilitator than everybody gives him credit for. I think he can be like a point forward type if he wanted to be. But as a rookie, it was we need you to score, score, score. Now it's, again, Kyrie's got the ball in his hands a lot. But I still think Tatum can do a lot of damage because he gets so much attention now driving to the hoop that I think his court vision is much better. His passing ability is much better. As the game slows down, I think he will become a better passer. I said it before. I think he ever played a game with the Celtics. I said he's going to have a better NBA career than Paul Pierce, and everybody laughed at me. Everybody thought I was out of my mind, and still do. I think a lot of people probably still do because it's not like his numbers are insane this season. What's he averaging? 15, 16?
Yeah, something like 16, 17, yeah.
Here's the difference. For me, the difference is he's got a chance, and obviously a lot of this depends on Danny Ainge, he's got a chance to play on a team that is way better, that could win multiple titles if they kind of stay together and figure this thing out. He's averaging 16.5 points, 6 rebounds in year 2, which is pretty impressive. Again, shooting the ball not as well from 3 as he did a year ago. But I just think there's still so much room to grow. Paul Pierce's second year, here's the difference. Paul Pierce's second year, he averaged almost 20 a game. He averaged 19.5 a game, 5.5 rebounds, only shot 34% from 3. But it was on a pretty crappy.
Yeah, like who's around him at that point? On those teams. Like Paul Pierce didn't have anybody named like Kyrie Irving or Al Horford or anybody like that, or a guy like Marcus Morris, who I love Marcus Morris.
It was Antoine Walker. I mean, that second year was like Antoine Walker and Kenny Anderson and Adrian Griffin. I mean, it was a bad team.
Kenny Anderson, friend of the program, by the way. We had Kenny Anderson on earlier this year. He was fantastic.
I heard he's really – isn't he coaching or something?
Yeah, he is coaching. I forget where he is.
Right?
He's coaching now, but he is coaching now.
Level.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
What did you make of all this,
Anthony? We should
Anthony?
have him on our pod.
We should. We should definitely have him on our pod. You'd have a good time with him.
The big in Big Wireless Provider stands for a lot of things. Big contracts, big bills, and big fees. What Big Wireless doesn't want you to know is there's a way to cut your wireless bill down to just $15 a month. Introducing Mint Mobile, the game-changing company that's taken everything wrong with Big Wireless and made it right. Mint Mobile makes it so easy to cut your bill down to just $15 a month. You can even keep your old number, along with all your existing contacts, with any Mint Mobile plan. There's no more paying for unlimited data that you'll never use. And if you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month, plus free shipping on your Mint Mobile SIM card, go to mintmobile.com/podcast. That's mintmobile.com/podcast. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month and get free shipping on your Mint Mobile SIM card at mintmobile.com/podcast.
What did you make of all the Anthony Davis stuff that was going on? I texted you during the week, and my only critique was it was painfully obvious who Clutch has under their umbrella in terms of like media guys they leak stuff to, because the whole Laker package didn't make any sense. Like, why would the Pelicans take that right now when they could obviously just get that in July? You know what I mean? Like, do you want Anthony Davis or not? If you don't want Anthony Davis, then fine, don't make this offer in July. But if you do, like, you're going to have to make this again because Boston needs to be involved. I just thought it was funny how Clutch tried to, like, strong-arm the Pelicans and Dell Demps through the media, and it just, for me, didn't work. I thought it was hysterical.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Rich Paul tried all he could to get this thing done, obviously. The Anthony Davis dad tweet was kind of funny. I mean, I was actually at the Harvard-Yale game, and I was looking at Danny Ainge and Austin Ainge. They were there watching this kid from Yale who's, probably a G League player at the end of the day. While all this thing, while Anthony Davis's dad tweeted that out and gave it the quote to Ramona Shelburne. I don't know how it got out there, but I'm thinking to myself, like, come on, like look at what Isaiah Thomas has done since that trade. Like everybody in the world would have done that trade, Isaiah Thomas for Kyrie Irving. Like everybody, like nobody in their right mind wouldn't have done that trade. Now, again, you can say what you want. Yes, Isaiah gave everything he had. He played hurt. He played after the death of his sister. He gutted it out. He did all that. I give him a ton of credit for it. But ultimately, it's a business. And if you can get a better player, an elite player like Isaiah Thomas, even if he's healthy, the Celtics ceiling was where they got. They weren't going any further with Isaiah Thomas as your number one player. And the problem is, if he wasn't your number one player, he's not nearly as effective. He needs the ball in his hands all the time to do what he did. And unfortunately, if he's doing all that, the other guys are kind of standing around. They just are. So ultimately, I just think it's better business sense. And New Orleans' owner, from what I hear, is not going to be strong-armed. He is not. He's a guy who's got some shit to him, who is not going to be strong-armed into doing something. In fact, he'd probably go the other way and say, the hell with it. If the offers are close, I'm not taking care of the Lakers after what they try to do to us here.
Right. I just think it's just a rough business place to be in. And I know the Bensons are working with, they have the Saints to run, and they're probably still mad about that non-call in the NFC Championship game. But, this is a very important decision. And if you're going to trade either the best franchise player in your history or the second best, player in your franchise history after Chris Paul, like, you need to make sure that you get all the offers in. And, like, why would you make that deal before you saw the draft lottery anyway? What if the Knicks said, yeah, we'll give you Zion for Anthony Davis, right? Wouldn't you want to have that discussion?
No, you can't. Stupid.
Yeah. So
it's
I thought
stupid. And again, you're going to get the same thing at the end of the year. So why are you going to help? You're going to help LeBron James when you feel like they just tampered with Anthony Davis. You're going to help LeBron James get Anthony Davis for another year? No,
no way.
Like, there's no way you would do it. It made no sense for New Orleans to do that trade. Now, again, when we're going to look at it at the end of the season, it's going to be a little bit different now because it's going to be, all right, which offer is better? If the Celtics don't throw in Tatum, right? If the Celtics don't throw in Tatum, which offer is better? Obviously, the Celtics picks are much better than the Lakers picks. But do you love Lonzo Ball? Do you love Kyle Kuzma? Do you like Kuzma more than Jaylen Brown? And again, what else? Marcus Smart. What else are you throwing in there? If it's Lonzo Ball and Kuzma compared to Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, they may like Kuzma. They may love one of those guys.
I'm a big Marcus Smart defender, have been for a long time. Now that he's shooting 37% from three, I can rub that in people's faces. One more break to take. This show is brought to you by Robinhood. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free. While other brokerages charge up to $10 for every trade, Robinhood doesn't charge any commission fees, so you trade stocks and you keep all of your profits, all the money back in your pocket. Plus, no account minimum deposit needed to get started, so you can start investing at any level. The simple, intuitive design of Robinhood makes investing easy for newcomers and experts alike. View easy-to-understand charts and market data and place a trade in just 4 taps on your smartphone. It's that simple. You can also view stock collections, such as the 100 most popular or any category you're looking for, to have it sorted all for you with Robinhood. And with Robinhood, you can learn how to invest in the market as you build your portfolio. Discover new stocks, track your favorite companies, and get custom notifications for price movements so you never miss the right moment to invest. Robinhood's giving listeners of Celtics Beat this podcast a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help you build your portfolio. Sign up today at Celtics.Robinhood.com. That's Celtics.Robinhood.com. Give me just a quick, who's cutting down the nets in early April here? Who do you got winning the whole thing?
For college?
Yeah.
I would say Gonzaga's got this kid Killian Tilly who's hurt again. I really like Gonzaga if this kid Tilly he missed the first 2 months of the year. He's kind of a fringe first round pick if he's healthy. Shoots 45% from three, 6'10", skilled, but he's hurt again. So I'm kind of falling off that Gonzaga bandwagon a little bit here. I picked Kentucky to win it all before the season. They lost by 100 the first game to Duke. And I kind of said to myself, what the hell am I doing? But I still think, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm back and forth on it. You can tell I'm back and forth. I don't think I'll pick Duke.
Yeah, I can tell you're laboring over it, though.
I'm totally laboring over it. I want Virginia. Like, I'm thinking Virginia. I'm thinking Gonzaga one day. I'm thinking Kentucky another day. Those are my three, and Kentucky and Duke is final 4 picks, I think, today. If Killian Tilly's healthy, I'll pick Gonzaga to win it all.
There's something about Jay Wright in March. I don't know what it is. He just seems to get. It's like Izzo too. They just get those guys playing really well at that time of year. I don't know. Duke's so loaded with talent, and Zion's unbelievable. But there's something about this reclamation story here for Tony Bennett in Virginia, after being the first one to ever fall to a 16. To have some sort of reclamation here this year would be really awesome. Before I do go, I just got to thank you for showing my Orange some love preseason. It's been a tough year, man. It's been really rough. It's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of inconsistent offensive performances. Boeheim has, ridiculed the team to no end in the public and has propped them up in certain ways. But man, they've been the most frustrating team of all time. But I do appreciate giving them some love beginning in the part of the season. I think you picked us for a Final Four, didn't you? And you would say, Cuse is going to be at some point.
I think I said like top 15 and maybe Final Four. I'm not on that wagon anymore. The point guard situation isn't good enough.
No. Tyus Battle hasn't been as good as I thought he would be. I thought he would be way better than he is right now.
Yeah, he's just not a great shooter. So he needs a good point guard alongside him. Frank Howard was hurt. And even now he's healthy. Frank Howard's good.
Not great.
Really good backup point guard. Really good for Syracuse.
But Buddy Boeheim, baby. Buddy's got a real nice – it reminds me of Andy Routens a little bit, a guy that could really just shoot the basketball like that.
Did you see – I asked Jim when he was at BC about a week and a half ago, I said, how is it coaching your son? And they're like,
hated it, didn't they?
They both admit it. He said that. He goes, I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. I'm like, what do you mean you hate it? He's like, he's not our best player. I'm on the bench. I'm thinking as a coach. Now I'm thinking as a dad. I don't think Jim can process both at once. Coach and, coach and father. and deal with Buddy. And again, Buddy started off slow. He's been much better lately. And it's not like, again, like Doug McDermott was Greg McDermott's best player at Creighton easily.
Right.
So there was no question of, well, should he play, shouldn't he play? Now you've got Buddy telling me, he's going on social media and he's seeing how people are tweeting at him, you shouldn't play, you shouldn't be playing at all, you certainly shouldn't be playing the minutes you're playing.
Right.
You're only on the team because your dad, all these things.
Right. I remember when I was covering the team back in 08 to 2012. Buddy would be at press conferences after the game and would every once in a while either lob him a question or he would go or Boeheim would ask Buddy like his input on it. I remember a friend, a colleague of mine, asked Boeheim a pretty dumb question, and Boeheim like ripped him a new one, and then ripped him again by having Buddy embarrass him. He was like, "Hey, Buddy, what did you think about that question?" And Buddy was like, "Oh, this is what it's really supposed to be." Even Buddy thinks that was a dumb question, so way to go. And I was like, "Wow, it was awesome, though. It was great."
Awesome.
That's Jeff
Buddy's a great kid.
Yeah, he's great. He's awesome. Jeff Goodman, you can hear him on our own podcast network, Good and Plenty, every Tuesday and Thursday. We've mixed. It was supposed to be NBA and college, one on the NBA, one. We've mixed it all together. It's just basketball all the time, twice a week on the CLNS Media Network. You can listen to Jeff and actually see him on Stadium. Okay, you can watch Stadium.com, or is it WatchStadium.com or just at WatchStadium for that Twitter handle, Jeff?
Come on, you should know this.
I should know this at this point. I think
WatchStadium.com.
There we go. So WatchStadium.com. Follow him at Goodman Hoops on Twitter. Subscribe to his show. Subscribe to this show. Just subscribe to everything that CLNS does. We got you covered. Jeff, I appreciate it. Safe travels wherever you're headed next. We'll talk probably Sunday, Monday about what we're doing for Tuesday's show.
Always, man. Always, man. Good to get on with you and reverse the roles.
I know.
I like reversing the roles. I think we might need to do that for my podcast one day.
I'm ready, bro. I'll be ready.
All right.
And that will do it for this. Even Buddy thinks that was a dumb question, so way to go. And I was like, wow. It was awesome, though. It was great.
Awesome.
That's Jeff
Buddy's
Good.
A great kid.
Yeah, he's great. He's awesome. Jeff Goodman, you can hear him on our own podcast network, Good and Plenty, every Tuesday and Thursday. We've mixed. It was supposed to be NBA and college, one on the NBA, one. We've mixed it all together. It's just basketball all the time, twice a week on the CLNS Media Network. You can listen to Jeff and actually see him on Stadium. Okay, you can watch Stadium.com, or is it even Buddy thinks that was a dumb question, so way to go. And I was like, wow. It was awesome, though. It was great.
Awesome.
That's Jeff
Buddy's
Good.
A great kid.
Yeah, he's great. He's awesome. Jeff Goodman, you can hear him on our own podcast network, Good and Plenty, every Tuesday and Thursday. We've mixed. It was supposed to be NBA and college, one on the NBA, one. We've mixed it all together. It's just basketball all the time, twice a week on the CLNS Media Network. You can listen to Jeff and actually see him on Stadium. Okay, you can watch Stadium.com, or is it WatchStadium.com or just at WatchStadium for that Twitter handle, Jeff?
Come on, you should know this.
I should know this at this point. I think
WatchStadium.com.
There we go. So WatchStadium.com. Follow him at Goodman Hoops on Twitter. Subscribe to his show. Subscribe to this show. Just subscribe to everything that CLNS does. We got you covered. Jeff, I appreciate it. Safe travels wherever you're headed next. We'll talk probably Sunday, Monday about what we're doing for Tuesday's show.
Always, man. Always, man. Good to get on with you and reverse the roles.
I know.
I like reversing the roles. I think we might need to do that for my podcast one day.
I'm ready, bro. I'll be ready.
All right.
And that will do it for this episode of Celtics Beat here on CLNS Media. I want to thank my guest,